District 4. Mike Baker, District 5. Gary Allen, District 6. Mimi Woodson, District 7. Tom Buck, District 8. Judy Thomas, Post 9 at-large counselor. Skip Henderson, Post 10 at-large counselor. Tiny Washington, Clerk of Council. And City Attorney, Clifton Fay. Columbus, Georgia, this is your City Council.
Well, good morning, everyone, and welcome to the May 31st meeting of the Columbus City Council. This is a work session. We do have a short consent agenda, but we have several special events on our agenda today, and we're so glad that you could be with us. This is an opportunity for us to delve into the issues a little bit deeper, and so we look forward to that opportunity. We want to start off, as we do every time we gather together, to call forward an individual in the community to give us an invocation. We're going to call forward this week Pastor Marcus Gibson with Greater Shady Grove Missionary Baptist Church, and have us lead us and have him lead us in prayer consistent with his faith tradition. Oh, Reverend Dr. Marcus Gibson. Thank you.
Thank you, Bob. Thank you. Shall we pray? All wise and eternal God, we come before you with bowed heads and humble hearts, thanking you for life, health, and strength. Thanking you for blessing us with this wonderful and beautiful day. Thanking you for all the good and the bounty that you've given to us. God, we come, O Lord, asking your blessings now upon our city council, upon our mayor, government officials, that you might grant them the wisdom that they need in order to make those decisions that are in the best interest of our community. We thank you, God, for the Tri-City area. We thank you for all who call this home, and pray that you will forever bless us as we seek to do your will, we pray. In the name of your Son, Jesus, and for his sake we pray. Amen.
Amen. Reverend Dr. Gibson, thank you so much. We appreciate that. Tell us, where is Shady Grove? You all are going to be moving, is that correct? Did I hear that correct?
Yes, ma'am. We'll be moving, hopefully we'll be going in around the 19th of June. We'll be moving to the 3000 12th Avenue block here in Columbus, Georgia. It's formerly where the Trinity Temple Assembly of God congregation met.
Right.
So we'll be taking over the responsibilities for that particular piece of property.
Well, we look forward to visiting you and you getting your new digs. Councilor Barnes, did you have any?
I just wanted to make sure, I know you worked very hard, and the mayor didn't know, so I definitely want to make that correction, Reverend Doctor.
Thank you, sir.
Yes.
Thank you.
Well, thank you again. Good to see you.
Good to see you.
All right, and we've got a special treat. We've got the girls from Girls Inc. here to help lead us in a Pledge of Allegiance. And if you all would gather in front of the clerk's table right here, and we're going to get Lindsay to get you, or Tiasha's going to get you a microphone.
My name is Naya.
I
I
pledge
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic on which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, and to faithfulness to all.
All right, let's give them a round of applause. Very good, ladies. If you would, give us your name and tell us how old you are.
My name is Naya, and I'm 7 years old.
My name is Rihanna, and I'm 7 years old.
My name is Hope, and I'm 8 years old. My name is Faith, and I am 8 years old.
My name is Olivia, and I'm 7 years old.
All right, and you have Adam with you. Adam, you want to come and introduce yourself? Yeah.
My name is Adam Drucker. I'm the program director with Girls Inc. Girls Inc. is a national organization. Our mission is to make girls strong, smart, and bold, and we have 2 great locations here in Columbus. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much, and thank you, girls, for being strong, smart, and bold, and for helping us out this morning. Let's give them another round of applause. Well, as you all know, the last time we were here together, we recognized that Tom Buck, who had come forward when we were in need of a counselor for District 8. That last time was his last meeting because Mr. Walker Robert Garrett had been elected on that same date to District 8. And so we want to welcome Walker to this council, and we want to also have the oath administered by Judge Art Smith. And so, Judge Smith, if you would come forward, and Walker, if you would step down.
Under the government of the United States.
Under the government of the United States.
Nor of either of the several states.
Nor of any of the several states.
Or of any foreign state.
Or of any foreign state.
And that I am otherwise qualified to hold said office.
And that I am otherwise qualified to hold said office.
According to the Constitution of the United States.
According to the Constitution of the United States.
And the laws of Georgia.
And the laws of Georgia.
And that I will support the Constitution of the United States.
And I will support the Constitution of the United States.
And of the state of Georgia.
And the state of Georgia.
So help you God.
So help me God.
Congratulations.
And Walker, when you're finished with all that, we want you to grab the microphone there if you want to say a few words and introduce us to the important people in your life that are here cheering you on today.
Sure. It's on. Well, I just want to say, first of all, thank you so much to my family and friends who are here, my mom, Debbie Garrett, and my dad, Hudson Garrett, and my pastor, Jimmy Elder, and then my campaign treasurer who did a ton of work, Joseph Brand and Emily, and then Adrian Chester. He's also been integral with the campaign. I really appreciate all of your support. And then I just want to say it's an honor and a privilege to serve in a seat that was served so well by Tom Buck and by Red McDaniel. I can only hope to live up to their legacy and look forward to serving the citizens of Columbus.
All right. Well, again, welcome, welcome. All right, here we go. We've got a quorum. We're going to go ahead and jump on into the agenda, give Walker his first vote, and that is to fill the seat of, let's see, a new position. It's the Plan Expert Volunteer for, which board is this, Madam Clerk?
Compensation Board.
The new Deferred Compensation Board. Wonderful. We got a motion for approval. Is there a second? A second. All those in favor? Yes, Tyler Townsend. Yes. All right, and this was a nomination by the Mayor Pro Tem as it states on the agenda. All those in favor, please state aye. Aye. All right. That concludes our consent agenda. And now we'll move into our work session. We're going to turn it over to the City Manager, Mr. Isaiah Hughley.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. At the last budget session, it was late in the hour, and we told you we would bring the health care 2017 discussion to this work session agenda today. And actually, other than the finance monthly update, it's the only thing only thing on the agenda. So we've got all the time that we need to discuss healthcare, and I'm going to call on our HR Director, Aretha Hollowell, to get right into it. And we'll mention that, of course, what's in the budget is the funding of our health care, but we will have until open enrollment, September, October timeframe, to kind of get the plan just the way you would like for it to be for the employees of this government, and then it would take effect January of 2017. So what we're talking about today is what the health care plan could look like, and of course you can debate it, tweak it, give us directions, and we'll go back and bring information back to you. Director Aretha Hollowell.
Good morning. It's a pleasure to be here with you this morning to talk again about the health care proposal for 2017. I just want to remind Council that on May 3rd, at the very first budget session, we presented the health care proposal for 2017. At that time, our benefit consultant was here and went through our proposal in great detail in outlining the plan design and the proposed changes to the plan, as well as the plan cost. So after May 3rd, we presume to have a total of 9 employee information sessions. That also included a meeting with the Employee Benefits Committee. Other meetings are also being scheduled. We also produced and published a 8-minute video of the health care plan that was distributed to all employees via email. That video is now posted on our website. There's also 2 different copies of the plan proposal that's on our website as well. We have answered and responded to numerous questions from employees via email, phone call, and otherwise, trying to make sure that they had a real good understanding of what has been proposed and what is being proposed for your consideration. So I wanted to today go through the health care proposal in summary, not in as great detail as what we went through at the budget session on May 3rd, but I want to go through it again to share with you what we have shared with employees, and certainly would welcome any of your feedback as what we've gotten from the employees. First, the plan of action for 2017. What has been proposed for 2017 is to expand the Health and Wellness Center to all employees that are enrolled on the health care plan. That means no matter what plan you're on, you have an opportunity to go to the Health and Wellness Center. We also propose to replace the current HMO plan due to the large capitation fees, replace that with an open access plan or point of service plan, which is a national network plan. You'll need no referrals for this. You don't even need to have a primary care physician if you don't want one. Also, we're proposing to replace the current PPO plan with an open access plan, which again is a national network, no referrals needed. Then to develop a high-low plan, both of those plans being point of service plans, or what we're calling a silver and a gold plan. And then lastly, to tie the financial rewards to the plan cost based on wellness participation, which we'll talk about briefly. The next slide is what's been proposed to Council. Before I get to that particular slide, I did want to just, continue to review the cost analysis on the health care summary. The city's contribution increased from $56.50 in FY16, and that's not on your slide here, but the city's contribution increased from $56.50 in FY16 to $6,100 in FY17 per budgeted position. for a total of $1.2 million. The approved contribution strategy is 70-30, 70% contributed by the employer, the CCG, and then 30% by employees. Over the last several years, the city has made up the deficit at year end, which equates to approximately 83% of the city's contribution, where employees have contributed 17%, where that split was designated to be a 70-30. A 2% COLA is recommended to help offset the employee premium increase of $1.3 million. The COLA will cover the employee-only premium increases for those who select the silver plan at any pay grade. Also, I just wanted to mention that, and I know you all have gotten feedback from the employees, and somehow or another there may be the thinking that all of the employees have family coverage. In reality, 51% of the employees have employee-only coverage. About 8% of the employees have employee and spouse coverage, and then about 25% of the employees have employee and children coverage, where for employees that have family coverage, it's about 14.8%. Now moving on to the slide that I have up next. This is just a comparison slide of the primary or major components of the plan and the plan design itself. To the left, you'll see the 2016, the current plan design, and then to the right, you see the proposed 2017 plan design. And currently, we have 3 plans: the Health and Wellness Center plan, where there's about 800 or so employees on the Health and Wellness Center plan. Then we've got the HMO plan, where there's another 800, almost 900 employees on that plan. And then the POS-PPO plan, where there's about 350 or so, for a total of about 2,000 employees on the plan. For 2017, we're proposing a silver plan and a gold plan, one or the other. The silver plan may be considered the low plan, and gold plan is considered the buy-up plan. It's the more richer benefit plan, as you can see that to the right. If you just look real briefly there, the deductible is proposed for the silver plan to be $2,000 and $4,000, which is the same or very similar to the deductible on the current POS-PPO plan. And then the gold plan, the deductible is proposed to be $1,000 and $2,000. That's $1,000 for an individual and $2,000 for a family. The co-insurance is proposed for the silver plan at 80% and 90% for the gold plan. The out-of-pocket maximum remains the same. This out-of-pocket maximum is going to be the same for either plan, the silver plan or the gold plan, and we've adopted that out-of-pocket maximum since 2015. And then as you look at your your office visits for your primary care physician, that's PCP, or your SP specialist physician, that doesn't move a whole lot at all. 30 and 40 if you're on the silver plan, and 20 and 30 if you're on the gold plan. And then, of course, the emergency room copay doesn't move very little at all. $200 if you're on the silver plan, and it remains the same at $150 if you're on the gold plan. And then, of course, the prescription drug plan doesn't change at all. You still got your same prescription plan at 20, 40, 60, 20 for your generic, 40 for your brand, and 60 for your non-formulary. And to the very right of that is the mail order there. That doesn't change a whole lot. And even with the generic brand, I would just note that many times when we're filling our prescriptions, we're not even paying the $20 copay. Oftentimes, we're paying $4 and $5 for those maintenance-type drugs. So we don't even pay the $20 copay oftentimes on that. Any questions on that slide?
Rita, this is about the silver and gold plan. I just thought maybe you could speak to it. I know a lot of the emails that we've gotten and questions that you've relayed, that you've received, and then questions I've received in 2 of the forums that I went to, that the employees that were, most concerned about the change were citing the gold plan cost increase. And I was then, when I would take that information back to you to understand so that I could explain if I had to, I was interested to see, for instance, I remember one gentleman that was very, very concerned, and he was afraid he was going to have to pay $2,500 more a year in premiums, and you pointed out that if he stayed with the same family plan he was on right now, but which would be the silver plan, that the increase would be $177 a year. Now, it's still an increase, and every dollar counts, absolutely. But I would think that his fear and his, well, visible panic would have been tremendously different had he, appreciated that he didn't have to join the gold plan. And so I think you need to speak to that a little bit. For some reason, there seems to be an impression that people have to join the most expensive plan, and actually that's a buy-up plan that the vast majority of our employees don't have currently, have not had. And so if they stay with what they have currently, that's the silver plan, what most of our employees have. And while there is an increase, it's nowhere near what the gold plan is. And so speak about that, the differences in cost, and maybe give some examples, no names, but to some of the things that have come in, because most of the people that I've seen that have gone to you or come through me to go to you, again, it's been $1,000 or $2,000 versus $177, and that's a big difference.
Right.
So if you could
Absolutely.
explain that a little bit so we have a sense of what the employees' concerns are in that regard.
Yes, one of the examples that I had given was for someone who is currently on the HMO plan, and they have family coverage. If you're currently on the HMO plan and you have family coverage, the HMO plan is considered, is very rich. All our plans are. There's just, there's no cheap plan. They're all very rich. And but this is the example that I used, is the employee that has family coverage and it's on the HMO plan. For employee and family, they are currently paying $196.72 biweekly. Okay. Per pay period, yes, per pay period. They're paying $196.72 per pay period, okay? That's $5,114 annually, or $426.23 monthly, okay? If that person chose the silver plan, they would be paying $202.31 per pay period, okay? That would be $52.6006 annually, or $438.34 monthly. The difference, the person has still got the family plan on the silver. The difference would be $5.59 biweekly, or $12.11 monthly, and $145.34 annually. Now, if that same person, and the city council adopted the 2% pay increase, I use this example. If the person is making $50,000 annually, this is hypothetical, and they get a 2% pay increase, that adds $1,000 to their salary. So their salary now is $51,000 a year, okay? So the biweekly difference in that is $38.46. The biweekly difference in the insurance increase is $5.59. So the person would be to the good, very much so, with a 2% pay increase, and would not lose anything by choosing the silver plan. And I do want to emphasize, just like the mayor said, the silver plan is what would be customarily expected that most employees would gravitate to. The gold plan is just that. It's a buy-up plan. It is a more richer plan, and you're paying for those richer benefits. As you look here at the column to the right, the deductible is $1,000 and $2,000. The co-insurance is 90%. And then look at the office visit co-pays, 20 and 30. And of course, your prescription drugs is the same on either plan. So you're going to pay more for the richer plan. So yes, the premiums are more on the gold plan. They're less on the silver plan. So you're paying the difference via premiums. But as the example that I gave here, looking at someone that would be on the HMO family and chose the silver family and got a 2% pay increase, they would be to the good by $30, more than $30, $33 a pay period. So, and I've got a couple other scenarios we'll go through as well as we move on here.
Councilor Woodson.
Yes.
Ms. Holloway, thank you very much, and thank you for your presentation. Wanted to ask you a question. Your example that you used was for someone that was making $50,000 a year. I asked Angelica to try to get it for you. I would like to know what the example will be for someone that makes $22,000 a year. And my reason for saying that is someone who's making $50,000 a year is pretty much comfortable than our average employees that do not make $50,000. They might make the lowest, I know that it's a G6 for us, is $22,000. So I'm interested to know how the increase and the pay increase would affect their pay.
Absolutely, absolutely. And one of the examples that's shared in your presentation here that you have a hard copy we'll go over, no matter, for those employees that elect the silver plan, for single coverage only, they will not have a negative, they will not have a loss in pay. For single coverage only, we know. Yes, I do need to do an example of that person making $22,000, and we're talking about a grade 6A, where a person might make $22,748, and the number of people that are, by the way, at that particular pay grade are very few, a handful of folks that are there, and that certainly is, if it's just one person, you certainly want to count it. But we're talking about a very small group of people. But for that person, if they got family coverage and they chose the silver plan, would they be to the good? My guess offhand is yes, with a 2% pay increase, they're still going to be to the good, but I'd want to do the calculation first.
Right, I asked Finance to do it for you while you continue the presentation.
Okay. All right.
And once they get it, they can give it to you, because I think it's important.
Absolutely.
To our constituents, because while they're watching, it's like when they say affordable housing, some people consider $250,000, where your average person, that's not an affordable home. You know, when people talk about small businesses, they're talking, 250, 200 employees. Well, to your average individual, that's not what a small business is.
I understand.
Thank you.
And definitely, we want to give as much information as possible.
And
Okay.
whenever you have time, okay.
Sure.
Thank you.
The next slide just shows the active employees' contribution, and it shows a comparison if those same employees were using the HMO plan and chose the Gold plan, or those same employees that were on the Health and Wellness Center plan and chose the Silver plan. And this example by no means suggests that because you're on the HMO plan, you should select the Gold plan. It's just to show you a comparison of what the premium currently is for those folks on HMO, and if you were to select the Gold plan, or if you're on the Health and Wellness Center plan and you decide to select the Silver plan, it's just to show you what the comparison would be. Because if you're on the HMO plan, you're on the POS plan, or you're on the Health and Wellness Center plan, you could obviously select the Silver plan. It's your election. So it's your election, and I'm going to talk a little bit more about what we encourage employees to do to make their final decision. This next slide is for pre-65 retirees. They have a different premium rate split. For pre-65 retirees, the contribution for retiree employee-only coverage is 50%. The city pays 50% of that retiree-only coverage, and the retiree pays 50%. And for their dependents, it's on a sliding scale as council decided in 2015 that each year for the dependents, whether we're talking about spouse or children, the city's portion of that would decrease by 10% each year. So we're down to 20% now, where the city will pay 20% of dependent coverage, and then the retiree pays 80% of that dependents coverage. So that's another still comparison, whether the gold plan or silver plan, whether you're on the HMO or the Health and Wellness Center plan, and you select the gold plan or the silver plan. Again, this is just for comparison. It's not to suggest that because you're on one plan that you should automatically select the gold plan or the silver plan, but just to give you a comparison. This example here shows an employee it shows the current silver plan and the gold plan, the new for single with children, with the spouse on the plan, or with family coverage. For the silver plan, the new monthly rate is $158.23. The current Health and Wellness Center plan, for the monthly rate is $129.24. The monthly increase is $28.99 for a difference of, for the biweekly is $13.38, and this is with the silver plan. With the gold plan is similar. For the gold plan, the new monthly rate is $226.74. For the current Health and Wellness Center plan, the monthly rate is $129.24. The increase is $97.50, and the biweekly increase is $45. The next slide, which is a little complex, but you've got a handout of it. Basically, what it's showing, if we got the 2%, if you approve the 2% COLA, for that person, that's a grade 6 all the way through a grade 23. No matter, for employee-only coverage with a silver plan, you will be to the good. Any employee would be to the good. And we're determining, Councilor Woodson, whether if you chose that family plan or some other plan, whether it's going to be to your advantage. But this is what we've gone over with the employees. This has been put in the hands of every employee so that they could help do their own comparison to see what works best for them. And we've talked to employees individually about their situations and some of the things that they're dealing with and what works best for them. And that's a decision that obviously, as an employee, that you want to talk to your family about what's going on in your situation. And I encourage employees to do that, to talk to your family, not talk to your cute buddy, not talk to the person that you're riding on the truck with, because that's been my experience, unfortunately, that a lot of times employees get their information from the buddy that they're riding on the truck with or the person that they're sitting next to as they're working with. And sometimes the buddy that you're sitting next to or riding on the truck with, their family situation is a lot different than yours. So you don't want to really make the same decision that I'm making, because I'm making this decision for my family and for what works in my house. And I've told employees in that, and I asked this at many of the sessions that I went to, and I got a nod of the head. Yes, this is where I get my information from. So the employee information sessions have been very beneficial. They've been very informative. They've generated a lot of questions and new information, I think, that has been very helpful to the employees. And a lot of them, they've got a hard copy. They can go back home and they can talk to their family about it. And they can call Human Resources. We can talk to them about it. They've got the 1-800 number to our benefits consultants who can talk to them about it and answer those individual questions, because, again, every employee's, their situation is going to be different. You know, what may be going on in my house may not be going on in that other person's house. And you don't want to make a decision like I'm making based on what I'm doing for what's going on in your life. And it can make a world of difference. And those are the kinds of things that have been very, very helpful. And that's why I said, even with the making the determination about which plan to choose, the more information you have, the better your decision is going to be. Going to that very next slide, which is a lot of information, but it's good information for the employees. It, again, gives more of a side-by-side comparison, and it delves a little bit deeper into the plan. You see at the coverage up there, you see how much the plan is going to cost, whether you're currently now on the Health and Wellness Center plan, the HMO plan, or the POS plan. And then you get to put it side by side with the silver plan and the gold plan, and then decide what's best for you. And as I said, you know, a lot of times people, they've even got hung around the out-of-pocket maximum. You know, less than 1% or less of the employees on our plan are going to reach that maximum out-of-pocket. So it means very little to employees, but it's there for a good reason because it helps us on our premium. And the analogy that I've given oftentimes is, well, why is the out-of-pocket maximum so high? Why is the deductible so high? One of the reasons it's high is to help keep the premiums low or lower. It's just like car insurance, as a good example. You want lower premiums? When you say, I got to get car insurance, I got to have it, but I don't want to pay very much for it. The representative tells you, so, well, you don't have to pay quite as much, but you're going to have a higher deductible. And this works very similar to that. The higher the deductible, the lower the premiums. And again, this is just a little bit more detailed analysis of the plan design to help employees decide what's right for me and what's right for my family. And that second page goes into even more details of that plan comparison. A lot of times, you know, unless, you know, insurance is one of the things that a lot of times we don't like to talk about because it's not so very easy to understand. So I'll just do what I've always done, you know, and we'll go along with that. But this year, employees will have to make a decision because the 3 plans that we have currently, we'll have 2 going forward. So employees will have to make a decision. Do I want the silver plan or the gold plan? We can't do just like we've always done. For example, with the HMO plan, many employees were very, very familiar with the HMO plan. So although things were changing, and although the Health and Wellness Center plan provided lower premium, provided a lower deductible, and lower out-of-pocket, most employees still stayed with the HMO plan. We kept changing. The POS plan became even cheaper than the HMO plan. More employees stayed with the HMO. I don't have to make a decision. I've always had the HMO, so let me just stay with that. But this year, you do have to make a decision whether you're going to choose the silver or the gold plan. And you don't have to make a decision now. And this is why I'm telling employees, you've got until October. Open enrollment will happen in October. And then even in October, you've got an opportunity to talk with a representative. You will have had a chance to talk with your family. We'll have more of these handouts. We'll have a booklet for you to decide what's going to work best for you. So those are the kinds of conversations that we've had with employees, and they've been very beneficial. Now, the last thing I want to talk about is the wellness incentive. What we proposed as a part of the 2017 health care proposal is we're proposing to put in place incentive options. The first option, both of the options have to do with encouraging employees to have well checks, to have physicals. Basically, we want every employee to have a health screening. That health screening will include a health risk assessment where you're asked a lot of questions about your lifestyle, and then have a biometric screening, which includes a blood draw. And if you're deemed at risk, meet with a coach. You do that once a year. We're proposing to do that in the fall, in October, November time frame. For every employee that's on the plan, you do that. One of the reasons we're proposing that is because we know, particularly with our claims experience, that at least 40% of employees do not subject themselves to an annual physical. And it's an annual physical, which is preventive, which is where your physician is able to identify certain health risks. If you have no health risks, you're good to go. But if you do have some of those things that lead to a lot of major chronic illnesses, heart attacks and strokes and those sorts of things, well screenings get ahead of that and help mitigate that, help prevent that. So that's why we're proposing the wellness screenings. And we're proposing two options for that. One of them is we're proposing a $50 per period surcharge for noncompliance, meaning if you're on the health care plan and if council agrees and approves for employees to have a health screening, and if you do not subject yourself to the health screening, then a $50 per pay period will be imposed for noncompliance. Another option to comply with the health screening is to offer employee an offset to their deductible. It will work very similarly. You would have the health risk assessment, your biometric screening, and if you're deemed at risk, you'd meet with a coach. With the offset to the deductible, you'd get a $500 credit on your deductible. So if your deductible is $2,000, your deductible is lowered to $1,500. If it's $4,000, it's lowered by $500. So those are the proposals and we talked to the employees about these options. We know that from statistics, and not just statistics, but evidence, particularly with our benefit consultant who's implemented these wellness incentives in other cities and counties that they've worked with, the proposed $50 per pay period surcharge is going to get the most compliance. And that's what you want, 80 to 90, 95% compliance, because what you're trying to do obviously is have folks comply with the well screenings, and for their sake, they're going to avoid that $50 per pay period. And that's a motivator to avoid a $50 per pay period. And it's a motivator, but it also gets us to where we're trying to get with the wellness screenings, which is to help us control healthcare costs by doing more prevention. That's the idea, is to have us do more prevention. Now, as I said, I've met with employees on this, and there was a lot of excitement generated about the $50 surcharge, a whole lot of excitement. But I think as we've talked about it, employees understand why it's being proposed, the purpose of it, because what it does, it allows all of us to have some skin in the game, because we're all paying the cost of health care. My health affects me, obviously, but because I'm on the health care plan, it affects everybody else. I'm not on an island by myself. So if I'm taking pretty good care of myself and I have an annual physical and I do all those preventive kinds of things, then I'm going to be helping the plan. But if I fail to do that, as one employee said to me, if I fail to do that, if I decide I just want to eat what I want to eat and drink and do whatever I want to do, don't have a physical, and die at age 50, that's my business. And yes, you can do that. But if you are on the health care plan that the city provides here, what you do does impact everybody else, because we're all in it together. And that's the idea with the health screenings. Now, having said that, although employees, I think they're coming around to appreciating the $50 surcharge, more of them have proposed that they would rather see the offset to the deductible. For a lot of employees, that seems to mean a lot to them. If they're having to utilize the plan more and they know that they're going to have co-insurance to pay, they're going to have out-of-pocket to pay, having that $500 credit on their deductible means more to them. And having heard that from employees, enough of employees, that's the overwhelming response that I've gotten. And because this is the first time we're proposing this type of wellness incentive, I agree. I think that that's going to be the best way forward this time, and see how that works. And I'm hoping that employees will avail themselves to it. The thing with, if we go with the credit or the offset to the deductible, it's a no harm something, in that your deductible is what it is. But if you participate in the health screenings, you get a $500 credit. But if you don't participate in the health screening, it's no harm. Your premiums are already set, your deductible is what it is. You just get a credit on your deductible if you participate in the health screening.
So, Retha, let me get this straight. So you're suggesting that council consider the $500 credit and not the $50 surcharge?
Yes, I think for this year, that's that's going to be more palatable to employees, and we'll get more response that way. And I just think that's going to be the better way for this round out. I'd love to see, more employees do it. The incentive may not be there for some employees, for example, that are pretty healthy and don't access care as much. The $500 credit may not mean as much to them, but for a certain number of employees, that credit is going to mean a whole lot, and they'll be more than happy to do the health screenings.
Okay. Counselor Thomas.
I have a number of questions about this piece of it. As I understand what you just said, council will be making the decision of whether we go with the $50 surcharge for noncompliance or the $500 for compliance, right?
Right.
Can you tell me some other place where this program is being administered?
Absolutely. I'm going to ask our benefit consultant, because they've actually done this and implemented in a couple other counties that they are the consultants for. So I'm going to ask Tammy to come and speak to that.
Good morning. We currently have this program with full wellness and incentives in place in Glenn County, Georgia, and then City of Albany has this in place as well, where there's a surcharge for noncompliance of not completing the health risk assessment and the biometrics. Both of those have seen a reduction in claims for their high-cost claimants and the savings on the incremental office visits and prescriptions within the Health and Wellness Center.
So Albany does the $50 per pay period surcharge?
Albany, I believe, is $30, and then Glenn County is $40 per pay period.
And Glenn County, as I recall, is Brunswick?
It's Brunswick, St. Simon's down there.
That area?
Yes, ma'am.
And they have, which one?
$40 per pay period.
But which incentive?
The surcharge.
The surcharge.
Both Albany and Glenn have the surcharge in place.
And if we go with the, well, actually, with either one of these, is it voluntary?
It's
on
voluntary.
On the part of the employee?
It's voluntary, meaning that the employee would not be disenrolled from the medical plan or not be excluded from the medical coverage if they don't participate.
I'm a little concerned about the, one of the things that Ms. Hollowell said as she was making the presentation was that we would know about your lifestyle. Well, unless that affects your job performance, that's not our business.
Exactly. I agree.
And you're, and so how is it legal for us to do this, I guess, is one of my questions.
Right, that's a very valid concern. And so a part of HIPAA compliance and all the compliance that's been released lately with the Affordable Care Act and with wellness programs is that employer groups do not see individual information on any one employee or dependent's medical claims, on the results of their biometric screenings, or on the health risk assessment. It's only reviewed on an aggregate level so that we can see what conditions are affecting the plan and how we're able to impact those. So for example, we could see how many members on the plan were diagnosed with diabetes, and then how we've improved their A1C score through the health coaching year over year. But we would not receive the individual employee's information to review.
So because we don't get individual results, that makes it legal?
Yes,
is that
ma'am.
right?
That's correct.
Okay. Then one of my questions is, how much will it cost the city to administer this plan? I'm thinking about, for example, how many, you said that for this year, and that worries me because the next year we may expand it, but for this year, it only applies to employees. How many employees do we have on a plan that would be covered by this 800 and something? Do I recall that?
About 2,000.
Yes. All employees that are on there, about 2,000.
About 2,000. Okay, so as an employee, I have a lot of different options. Suppose we do the $500, okay? And I take the health risk assessment, but I don't do the biometric screening, and I don't go to the health coach. Somebody's got to keep up with that.
Right.
Suppose I do the health risk assessment and the biometric screening, and I go to the first appointment that I have with the health coach, but I don't go to any of the rest of them. Somebody's got to keep up with that. Suppose that I do all of it. Somebody's got to keep up with that.
Yes.
Suppose I do none of it. Somebody's got to keep up with that. And so we're talking about those kinds of records for 2,000 people. How much is that going to cost us to administer that program?
That's built into the cost for the Health and Wellness Center in 2017. The Health and Wellness Center vendor that's going into place, CARE ATC, would track the progress of each employee, so completing the biometric screening, completing their health risk assessment, and then report that back to our group to administer that. So we would look to an outside vendor that would administer that deductible reimbursement so that the employer is not reviewing individual claims informations on deductibles.
How much would it cost us for that review? How much of the premium, if you will, that we're paying this third-party vendor is to administer this part of the program?
To administer the deductible reimbursement, it's $3 per employee per month.
And is that just for the wellness incentives?
That's to administer the wellness incentive for reimbursing the deductible.
So how much will it cost us to administer this portion of the plan?
$3 per employee per month.
Well, you said that included something else along with administering this plan.
No, that's administering this reimbursement of the deductible, reimbursing the wellness incentive.
Okay, so $3 times 2,000
Yes.
employees
On a monthly basis.
times 12.
Correct.
Okay. Do we, and this may be a question for Ms. Hollowell or for our finance director, do we currently you said that this will be administered by this third party, but they've got to get the information, right, from somewhere. Who do they get the information from?
From
Us?
the Health and Wellness Center vendor.
How does the Health and Wellness Center vendor get the information? How does the Health and Wellness Center know that I did this?
Because the employee will complete the biometric screening with the Health and Wellness Center vendor. So we'll either have on-site screenings or they'll go to the Health and Wellness Center. They're documenting that, and then we'll have regular file feeds going to the vendor to administer this.
And so we don't need any city employee involved in this piece at all, is that correct?
That's absolutely correct, yes.
Okay, okay. I have some other questions. I don't know if we want to do those or if,
I have some counselors in line, I think, about the surcharge fee.
so why don't we
Come
do
on
that
back if
and
you wanna
then
queue up again.
Yeah.
Let's see, Counselor Henderson.
Well, as it relates to the surcharges, I would favor the incentives, I think, more than the added premium. One quick question, HRA, you mentioned some of the folks that are healthier and don't use a lot. I don't know why they wouldn't do the screening anyway, because I think an HRA can roll over, can it not, from year to year?
It's up to the employer to make that decision if we want it to roll over.
I mean, and if you had an employee that is healthy and they accumulated 500 this year and they didn't go to the doctor and they include 500 next year and the next, they pretty much, if they ever did have some kind of event that caused them to be hospitalized or a little bit more catastrophic claim, they may have put aside enough money to cover the entire deductible. Is that not correct?
That's correct.
I mean, it's a possibility.
It's a possibility, yes.
So there's still an incentive for folks who are young and healthy to do that, because as they look at the trending increase in health care, they can mitigate that by having these deposits placed in, and I think they can even be invested once they reach a certain amount.
That would be with the health savings account, and so that'd be a
HSA?
different type of plan.
Okay. All right, thanks.
Let's see, we have Counselor Barnes.
Ma'am, I didn't get your name.
Tammy Starkey, I'm with Shaw Hankins.
What is the last name?
Tammy Starkey,
Ms. Starkey?
yes.
Hi. I'm a healthcare professional, and so I'm all for these wellness incentives. I mean, you can't beat statistics, you can't beat the studies.
Right.
And it's a benefit for the employee. That being said, though, I agree with what Judy is saying. You know, to me, it's not palatable to force individual. To me, that's not an incentive, that's a punishment. And I've heard from a number of the employees, and quite frankly, I belonged over 20 years with one of the most disciplined organizations, the U.S. Army, and they gave you a choice. If you didn't stay in shape, that was your choice, but the Army now gave you a choice. They didn't penalize you. You gave you a choice. You either stayed fit, or if you couldn't make the standards, then you had to go. It's not palatable to me, and one of the things that I've heard from the citizens, this $50 was a punishment. There's no way you can get around it. And a person's health is a very intimate thing.
Right.
And you're right. I think that this policy is skating the HIPAA guidelines, really, because when you start to force, even with smoking cigarettes, it says on the pack you can buy it, but smoking can be hazardous to your health. The person has a choice. This $50 is putting the average employee in a position economically that may not be conducive to their lifestyle and support of their family. Now, I'm all in favor of the health reimbursement account, because then it's what? It's rewarding people. It's not punishing individuals. So I'm glad we're thinking about going on this route. And I can understand from the employee viewpoint, we haven't given these employees a raise. We're giving them a cost of living, not a raise, and then you're going to punish them because they choose not to do something, $50. You know, I agree. I don't like anything like that. And so I'm really glad that we are thinking, Retha, about dismissing with this here and just going with something that rewards the employees rather than giving them a slap because they don't comply to what we want them to do.
And we have Counselor Woodson.
Yes, thank you, ladies. I appreciate the presentation. I just want to clarify something because during this conversation, if I understand correctly, Retha, when the mayor asked, what is it that you're referring to, I understood that you were referring to the $500 deductible or credit to the employee.
Yes.
Not to use the $50 penalty.
That's
Is that
correct. That's the recommendation.
Okay. So, and really it's our choice
That's
as
correct.
council and our votes to
That's
decide
correct.
if we want to penalize our employees and our constituents, or do we just want to go with the 500,000, correct?
Yes.
Okay. That's what I wanted to make clear, because in the conversation, we were kind of, I know I felt like I got lost. I understood exactly what you were saying, but then throughout the conversation, I was, whoa, what happened to the decision there? So I just wanted to
Absolutely.
make clear. And another thing I wanted to say is, actually, this is really good, and I'm going to tell you why. I know my employer gives us, and it's a choice for us, if we take a survey, we get a we get a discount of $40. But it's an individual thing. It's not penalizing anybody. It's just an incentive so they can know where our health is and how much it's going to cost.
Right.
So to me, I think the 500 is good as long as you don't bring back the penalty.
Right.
I'm okay with that because that does give an incentive, and I'm going to tell you why I think it's a great idea too. Because with our lives today and people having 2 and 3 jobs and their children and sports and our lifestyles, we do not take care of ourselves, and we do not go to the doctors like we should. It's a small percentage. So this really gives an incentive to our employees to take better care of themselves for their families.
Sure.
So I want to thank you for this. I'm not interested in the $50, but the other part of it, you can count on my support, because I think it's a very good incentive for our employees.
Excellent. And I will say that we got a good bit of feedback from the employees. They said, how about giving us $50 to go and do it? And we'd like to be able to do that. I think as our health care plan, the situation turns itself, and I feel like we're on a good road now, and hopefully next year we'll be able to come back and say you can get the $500 credit on your deductible, or we'll give you $50 to go and do the health screening. So we'd love to be able to say that, and so it's definitely on our radar to be able to do that. And also with the health screenings, we've got a lot of feedback from employees who said, well, do I have to submit to your, the wellness center provider there for them to do it, or can I bring my physical from my doctor? I actually do go to the doctor every year, and can I bring it from my doctor? And the answer is definitely yes, you can do that. If you're already are seeing a primary care physician and you're getting your annual physical, you can definitely use that information to satisfy this requirement.
Retha, did you have a response
Yes.
to the question earlier about if you're a grade 6, which I understand there's only 6 employees that are grade 6?
Yes.
And I don't know if any of them have family coverage, but let's assume one of them does.
Right.
If they choose a silver plan, will the 2% cover it? Tell us about what you found out.
Yes. If you are a grade 6 and you're on the HMO plan and you have family coverage, the difference would be $5.59 per pay period. So the 2% would more than cover that. The 2% would be $17.50. Am I saying that right? Or is it $11.90? 91 cents.
So they would get $11, and out of that
Yeah, it would be an increase. They get $11.91 increase if they're on the HMO family plan and they elect the silver family plan. They get an increase of $11.91.
And if
per
you
pay period.
subtract from that $11
What, this is-
cents to $5 and something, they'll still be receiving
This
an
is what the
increase in
$5
funds.
subtracted. This is what the $5.59
So that was a net.
increase subtracted, and you still have $11.91 to the good.
So they get 17 and change.
Right.
Increase for the 2%. When you subtract out the difference in the increase in the premium on
And
the
they
silver
still get-
plan, it's $5 and change. They'll net $11 and change biweekly per
Right.
paycheck. Okay.
Right.
Does that include taxes?
Well, yeah.
The pension,
But we'd have to know deductions and what bracket
terms of
they're
what
in.
their
and-
FICA would be.
So we'd have to go and do some research. But I mean, all of our salaries, everybody's
Gonna be
subject to
subject
federal
to
tax,
that.
But
state
still,
tax.
but it still doesn't affect their pay period.
pension's 8% for new employees, so that's 15.5%.
Right.
And I think that's what, I think that's what a number of the employees who talked to me were talking about, was that the amount of money that I actually take home is going to be less than it was yesterday, and I understand that, and I understand that some of that is beyond our control, but if you get a $17 increase in salary, you also get an increase in your taxes, in your pension, and in your FICA, which brings it down to about $14, $15. And, that may be a small amount, but it's still less than what I was making now. I believe these folks who tell me that their take-home pay is less today than it was last year. I believe them, because they look at that paycheck every 2 weeks.
They should definitely call Retha and let her see. I know we've had many that have come, and I don't think we've had one yet that did actually make less take-home than they did for, unless they changed their deductions, had a divorce, something happened, garnish, something happened with their paycheck. But if they did, and with that example, as you said, because it's a 7%, 7.5%, it still nets out to be more. So if you believe you're taking less home net and you've not made any deduction changes, or there's not been anything in your life like a garnishment, you should definitely call Retha and ask her to go through. It's not that it couldn't mathematically happen,
Right.
but we'd like to work with them to see if they can make some adjustments, because we've had a lot of folks have said that, and we've checked on all of them and haven't found one yet. Retha?
Right, and I was just going to say, we've done some examples for employees who've requested. We've gone back to 2012 and looked at what their salary, every deduction that they had, and then looked at what their current salary is. So we've done, in every example that we've done, we haven't done every employee, but for the examples that we've done, whatever you were taking home in 2012 is you're taking more home in 2016. And there could be an example where an employee is somehow or another taking less. Yes, it's not just Columbus, Georgia, but it's everywhere, where even though we're able to give a pay increase, with the rising cost of health care, is just not able to keep up with pay increases. So yes, there are definitely, when you look at your deductions for 2012 as an example, and look at your deductions for 2016, yes, the deductions are probably more in 2016, but your pay overall is going to be more as well. Finance hazard.
Oh, I just wanted to make mention that the premiums for the health insurance is pre-tax. So if there was...
Yeah, back up a little bit from the,
sorry.
yeah, it reverberates when you lean in like that, yeah.
That's my first time, but
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
Well, the premiums, the health insurance premiums are a pre-tax deduction. So if there was any tax implications, it would be after the deduction difference. So it's a pre-tax item.
That's a good point.
So taxes is taken after the increases for health insurance is deducted. So
that would reduce your...
It would reduce your tax liability.
Yeah, it would reduce your taxable income.
That's right.
And then therefore your taxes would be, so that's a benefit.
Right.
Say it one more time.
The health insurance...
I see some people's faces, that's why I said say it.
Okay. The health insurance increase is a pre-tax deduction. So any tax liability that you have would be after the health insurance increase. So your taxable income is actually lower due to the increase in the health insurance premium.
So you're taxed on less because you get to take it off the top. So.
That's right.
Okay, good. Councilor Henderson, did you have something?
Yeah, I wanted to wait and make sure everybody had a chance to talk about the incentives. I had some other questions.
Okay, and I think Councilor Davis and Councilor Thomas have other questions too. Why don't we go back to Councilor Thomas and then Henderson, then... okay. Okay.
Well, yeah, I wanted to ask Tammy, this is...
Okay, hold on just a minute,
Oh.
Skip, I'm sorry. Councilor Davis had a question about the incentives, so we'll close that
Okay.
out and get back to you. Yeah, Councilor Davis.
Okay, thank you. I do want to talk to the consultant representative. So let's talk about this incentive program that you've got here. So there's an administrative cost of around $72,000 a year, right?
Right, correct.
Okay. So if you eliminate, I'm not sure, how are you paying this $50 on the surcharge? Where does that equate into this? Does it offset the cost of this incentive program?
So it would be either or. We would only do the surcharge or the $500 credit, so we would not have both in place. So the administrative cost is only if we do the $500 credit on the deductible. If we went the surcharge route, which isn't what's recommended at this time, then that would be built into the funding of the plan, just as the employee payroll deduction contributions help fund the plan.
So if you're essentially giving credits away, you take away the surcharge and you still have credits and all, is ultimately you've got the administrative cost. Is ultimately the employee's going to pay for this credit, the HRA?
Well, so it is built in, the administrative cost is built into the fixed cost of the plan, just as we pay administrative cost to Blue Cross Blue Shield, to Express Scripts to administer the claims on the plan. All of that is built into the overall cost of the healthcare plan.
So the employees, if you take away the surcharge, they wouldn't anticipate any
any increase in the deductible, or excuse me, in the premium.
They would still realize the increase in the premium because the plan is underfunded. And $72,000 is a very small portion of the overall cost of the healthcare plan.
So if you take this completely away, will there be any?
The increase would still be the same. Because that's such a small portion of the cost of the plan, that's not what is driving the increase. What's driving the increase is because the plan's been underfunded the last few years, where what the employees are contributing is not the full 30% of what's been projected to cover the cost of the
Well,
plan.
I understand that, but you could probably make that argument every year, that it's underfunded.
No, I would not
We've been
make.
talking about this for years. I'm trying to see where the surcharge, is there going to be, if the surcharge is not in there, are the employees going to pay a higher premium for the cost of this, the credits to the deductibles?
Okay, that's the question.
There's a cost in there somewhere.
Right, so removing the surcharge or removing the credit would not change what's proposed as the employee contributions for 2017.
What about the following year?
Following year would be dependent on the claims. And I know you said you'd make the argument that every year that it's underfunded. Our goal is to come back next year and the plan is fully funded and we're running a surplus to cover the claims in the coming years. Because we use an actuarial firm to project the claims, to project the fixed cost, and build in enough cost to cover expenses year over year.
When I asked that question a few weeks back, that my question was pertaining to the numbers that are already factored in this year in the budget that from the actuarials. And it was explained that it could come back as a decrease, or it could come back as a lower amount, but we're actually putting a higher dollar amount in that in the column that the actuarials have recommended. So it's just a projection at this point, but it could come back in less. And that would support what you just said.
That it's a possibility they could come back less. The actuaries are conservative so that we don't have to come back this time next year and say the plan's underfunded.
So if that happens, what then?
If the plan is
So you would
underfunded,
right.
then we look at how do we impact the cost moving forward. So is it through additional plan design changes to see savings? Do we look at how we save on
So if
administrative
you have the
costs?
savings, essentially, you could put it back in the employees' pockets.
Definitely. If there's a savings, then that would be reevaluated, and that 70-30 split, then that 30% is lower. We could see a reduction in the employees' contributions.
Okay, well, I want to go back to this a minute, the $50 surcharge. So what I hear you telling me, it does not have any effect in the future. If you're taking the credits and you're offsetting the deductibles, whether today or tomorrow, or as Councilor Henderson said, ultimately, it grows if you don't use it. The $50 surcharge has nothing to do with offsetting that charge, and you're not going to come back and raise the premiums to the employees to administer this plan.
No, for 2017, no, and moving forward, we'd have to evaluate the cost of the plan. But we have evaluated the impact of this deductible credit with the actuary to make projection on what does that do to claims expense, because then you're increasing the liability to the plan by reducing employees out of pocket, but that is built into the cost for 2017 that have been presented.
Thank you, Mayor.
You're welcome.
Thank you, ma'am.
All right, Councilor Henderson.
Thank you, Mayor. Now, I was just curious. I know we had gone to a self-funded plan some years ago, and I can't help but wonder, and I've talked to other folks in the industry, that although you give up some sense of security, I guess, and the plan can become a little more volatile, but with the changing landscape, if we spread the risk among, like if you just went out and got bids from Blue Cross, from Humana, from United, and we let them provide the plan, and we did not fund it, how would that not help hold down some of the costs a little bit? Because it just seems, by the sheer number of people they would spread the risk across, unless it was a very unhealthy group, it has to help mitigate some of the cost of facilitating the plan for us, doesn't it?
Well, so
I know it's a little late in the game to do that for this year, but I'm just curious.
If we looked at a fully insured plan, which is what I think you're referring to, by us just paying a premium to, say, Blue Cross Blue Shield, and they fund the claims, they're going to underwrite the plan just as our actuary has underwritten the plan to determine what is the cost per employee for these plan designs that we're offering. And then they're going to add on top of that some margin for the company and for administrative expenses. So that would be the difference, is that they're going to come to the same premium rates likely that our actuary has developed, but then they're going to have to include some margin for the insurance carrier to fully insure the plan because they're assuming all the risk. With a group with 2,000 employees, probably 4,500 total members on the plan, it is a credible group, meaning that we can look at claims experience and make some real projections on what costs are going to be in the coming years. When you get under maybe 500 lives on the plan, that's where it's very difficult to make projections and it is more volatile. And you see year over year some spikes and valleys, and that's where fully insured might make some more sense because you have a stable cost. But really, if you're using true actuarial modeling, you're taking into account a large portion of your historical claims, we should not see volatility in the plan year over year.
Well, no, I get that, but I guess, again, my question, it's just, I'm asking out of ignorance, but it just seems that if the advantage to smaller groups is to be able to spread the risk across a broader group than just their 300 or 400 employees, wouldn't the same ring true? I know you can get some actuarial data that you model based on the actual claims, but it just seems to me that if there's a broader group that this risk is spread among, that would have to have a positive impact on the cost of administering the plan.
Right, I understand. And so a small group that's fully insured, they are pooled within that carrier's block of business, and so their risk is spread amongst that block. And depending on their size, their own experience has a certain weighting to how their rates are set. At the size that Columbus is, you would be 100% credible and you would not be pooled within the block when it's underwritten on a fully insured platform.
Well, and the only reason I ask is I've been obviously asking, we hear so much from the employees, I've been asking some other insurance professionals, and of course free advice is usually worth what you pay for it, nothing. But I've been getting some information from them, of course it's very superficial type information, that it may be less expensive to go with a fully insured plan. And I don't know that we've done that in a while, put it out for bid to multiple carriers, or if we just keep going back to Blue Cross and Blue Shield. Yeah. Well, I'm just raising the question because as the landscape changes and the environment changes for us and how we have to deal with providing this. Because, I mean, the thing that we talked about this early, and I don't know that it's possible to do effective communication about health insurance. I mean, you could stand up there and use all this terminology, and I feel the breeze as it goes over my head, and I don't know a whole heck of a lot more than I did before I asked. But I'm going to sit here and nod because I don't want to look like the only idiot in the room. I hear from the employees, and when we go and we talk to them, that's why we talked about how critical it is. And I'm not placing blame, but so much of what I've heard is the result of communication that didn't filter through to everybody. Maybe it went through other employees and it changed a little bit. But people go to work in government not for the pay, but typically originally it was for the benefits. Right. And now they're struggling and we're struggling because those benefits are I mean, maybe it is by necessity, but they're eroding. And I just think if there's an opportunity to have a positive impact, even if it's a slight, by going out to bid, look at a fully insured. I don't know if that makes sense or not. I just don't want to leave anything off the table.
Right, that's understood. And we do market with the carriers each year, and so on a self-funded plan, you're looking at the administrative cost, so that fixed cost that you're paying for the carrier to administer the plan. But the bigger portion that you're looking at are the network discounts that each carrier has, and so with that, we conduct a repricing study where we're looking at the specific claims for Columbus employees and evaluating the different carrier options to see who has the best discounts for the providers that your members are are utilizing. So historically, Blue Cross has had the strongest discounts. I think as we see some changes with the carriers and some consolidation of these networks, that may change in the future. But historically, Blue Cross Blue Shield has had very strong discounts in this area, and that saves us on our claims.
Thank you.
Okay. Counselor Thomas.
A couple of questions. The summary that you gave us earlier, Retha, you said that we have budgeted in the last 2 or 3 years. I quite frankly don't remember exactly when we adopted the 70-30 split, but for the last several years. And this last year, we missed it by 13%. It wasn't a 70-30 split, it was an 83-17 split. Has that been our history in this? Has it been that large? To me, 13% miss seems like a pretty big miss.
Yes, it is a huge difference in terms of the 70-30 split. Council actually adopted that beginning 2015, and in that adoption, we were using another benefit consultant. And at the end of the year, you've heard the Deputy City Manager of Finance come and said we've got to make up for the amount that was not contributed. And that's what we've been doing for the past several years. How many years we've been doing that, I don't know. Pam could probably speak to that a whole lot better than I could. But right now, we are able to know more clearly, definitely, what better project with our actuarial projections in terms of what the plan cost, and that's what we're looking at now. Unfortunately, it results in a 23% increase in health care in terms of what we would have been expecting. Like last year, it was projected only for 2016 a 5%, when actually it's a 15% increase, and that's exactly what we're trying to avoid going forward.
And you're telling me that since then we've changed people who make that prediction?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. The other question that I have, I want to make sure that I understand. If you can go to the slide, Retha, that has the current and the proposed, go back a little more. That one.
Okay.
What is happening with the health and wellness plan? Will we, from what I have been able to try to see here, we're only going to have 2 plans?
That's correct.
What is with the health and wellness clinic then?
Well, the Health and Wellness Center, which is one of the things that employees wanted ever since we opened the Health and Wellness Center in 2013, is for all employees to have access. And ideally, that is what we would have done. Hindsight is 2020. That is what we would have done initially, is have the Health and Wellness Center open to all employees. But there was a different way of thinking at that time, such that it was thought that it was more prudent to have a plan itself because of the benefits associated with this Health and Wellness Center plan, which have been extremely good benefits. We predicted that employees would flock to the Health and Wellness Center plan, okay? That did not happen, but yet employees wanted to have access to the Health and Wellness Center, and we wanted them to have access as well. It unfortunately has taken us a little while to turn this boat to get to this point now where we can say and propose that the Health and Wellness Center will be open to all employees. They'll still be able, and even these employees now, these 800 or so that are on the Health and Wellness Center plan, they will still be able to go to the Health and Wellness Center, no cost to them for office visit. If they're administered a prescription there that the center can fulfill, it would be administered free for them. So they will get those benefits. Yes, those folks that are on the Health and Wellness Center plan of itself, their benefits are not going to be the same for 2016 because they're going to have to choose one of the two plans that's opted here.
And their cost will go up substantially.
That group is the most impacted. You're correct.
The
That
people
group is-
who are currently
because-
in the health and wellness clinic.
Yes, because as you see, their deductible is lower, and their out-of-pocket has been lower.
Yeah.
So
much
that
lower.
group is impacted in that area.
And the other question that I have, you gave us a couple of slides that showed the plan design. And I am assuming that our broker is the one who looks into the plan design, who helps us make decisions about do we continue to offer this or that or the other.
Absolutely.
When was the last time we did a real thorough look at the plan design to see if there are places where we can, if we cut this
I think I know where
benefit,
you're
what does
going.
that do to the premium? Does it offset? Is it worth it? I know that, for example, on the next slide, I think it is, there's the substance abuse, both inpatient and outpatient. If we tweak that, what would it do to the premium? When was the last time we did some of that kind of stuff?
That was done.
And I'm not suggesting that we do that necessarily to the substance abuse,
Right.
but that's one that
Exactly.
jumped out at me.
Yes, and you asked a similar question maybe a year or so ago, and the consultant at that time looked at just what you were suggesting to see if there are areas in the plan design that we can cut back or delete and see if that will help us on our overall plan costs and premiums. And as we looked at that, Counselor, that has been done to the degree that it can be. And if we start snipping away at, home health care or durable medical equipment, those things are not going to significantly help the plan in terms of its cost. If we did away with some of those things or reduce offering of some of those things. And one of the things that I was concerned about was when we went from the silver plan to the silver and gold plan, what are we not going to pick up over here that's on the HMO plan or the health and wellness, particularly the HMO plan, because the Health and Wellness Center plan is already a POS plan, which is what we're proposing. And then to the column where you got the POS and PP, we already have those two plans. So I was looking at the HMO plan. So when we move from the HMO plan to these two POS plans, what are we not going to pick up and what are we going to lose, maybe that the employees do use? I'll just use the home health care, for example. One of the things I asked the consultants to do is how many people actually access that, or the durable medical equipment? How many people are accessing that, or anything that you don't see here that maybe is not shown? We won't be losing anything. If you're on the Health and Wellness Center plan and you go to the POS, you won't be losing anything. It may be that where there was not a copay before, you may have a copay now, but you're not going to be losing anything. But back to your question of what of these things can we take out to help us reduce the overall cost of the plan? There's nothing that we can take out that's going to significantly impact the cost that we're looking at now.
And I'm not suggesting that we necessarily take anything out, but that we look at what services being offered, can it be trimmed? And it may be that in order for it to make any kind of significant impact on the premium, we have to look at durable medical and home health and substance abuse and this one and that one, and pull them all together before we make any kind of significant difference in the premium. And I would be, quite frankly, reluctant to make some of those kinds of changes unless it did make a significant difference in the premium. But my concern is that we keep on top of it.
Absolutely.
And we keep looking at it, and we don't just let it go from year to year because, we've always paid whatever on home health.